Good evening, lovely spirits. It's the wise servant here, Mr. Solace. Pasumperset. Peace and wisdom. Now, as you guys know, it's Black History Month on my channel early. And today I want to give you guys a little history on the Americas. I was asked some questions, so I want to go ahead and do this video breaking down some history on North America, like what was North America's name before European settlement. I want to break down the ancestors of the Olmecs and the Toltecs. I want to give y'all a little history on the Aniawea and how when the Europeans began to come deep into the forest lands, and they came into contact with the Aniawea and how they wore the head garbs, turbans and things. They wore a lot of gold jewelry and gold teeth. And sometimes when you see paintings of slavery or different imagery, you may see black men that don't look enslaved. And we think that these are the Moors. You know the Moors with the red hats? Those are Moors. But then sometimes you may see other black people. They don't have on red hats, but they don't look enslaved. And they kind of look like gypsies or Indians a little bit. Not Indians with the red dots, but just, turban or head garb and a lot of gold or just look flashy. You may have seen a picture of slavery and a black man looked flashy. He looked like he don't fit. And he may be standing next to a white man or something. Like how the Moors used to, with the red hats. But he doesn't have that on in any way. This would have been one of the Aniawea or one of the advanced tribes. Because you had like 4 or 5 tribes that were really advanced. And then, you had the rest. And it's just like in today's times. Everyone's not at the same technological advances. Even in today's times. So, it was the same in the past. So, I just want to give you guys a little bit of history on these kind of things. I want to give y'all a little history on the natives, how they have 2 sets of offspring, the lighter half and the darker half. But I'm going to get into all of that. Now, before I get into this video, I want to say this, because this is very important. There was a time in the past when vagina was sacred. You hear me? Vagina was sacred. It was like God. Men never seen it, but they always heard about this great thing that they came from. And vagina was like God. And they would be talking to their women halves, and they'd be talking about vagina and say, man, I want to see God so bad. And a woman, she's like, yeah, I heard about God. I came from God too. And women knew they had to keep vagina sacred. So she ain't tell them like, yeah, I got a vagina. That's not God, but that's something like it. And, they played dumb with men like, oh, you came from God too? And like, yeah. And it's a deep thing. Vagina began to be negotiated. It began to be like an item for sale. And ever since that time, vagina been known as pussy. And it's a deep thing. You fit, no, you don't want to discuss, Okay, we'll move along. The Satan is the flesh. This is why when you pray, you say, in Jesus' name, we pray. Amen. Because the Satan is, no, you don't like that? Okay, we'll move along. Let's move along, because I don't want to piss y'all off. Now, we all know pork, beef, these foods give men complications. Now, we know the swine is the pig. And you'll hear black men say that swine is killing us. It's giving us high blood pressure, diabetes, etc. But it's a deep thing I want y'all to grasp. Because we eat the pig. Then we say the pig is killing us. Do you see the morality? It's so cold-blooded. We eat beef. which is cow, buffalo, whatever. We eat pig, which is pork. And then when it gives us complications, we say, oh my God, that is killing us. Like we didn't kill it to eat it. You see how the morality is in hell? We kill the meat, then say, man, that meat killing us. Man, that swine giving us diabetes. No? You don't know? You don't want to hear it? Okay, let's move along. Let's just move along. Men are supposed to be totally masculine and strong, all logical, no emotions, completely masculine. Women are supposed to be feminine, completely emotional, no logic, just completely feminine. And when they become one, the woman will gain a little strength and logic. The man will become a little weaker, get a little more associated with his emotions. And in that, they will make each other individually perfectly balanced. It's a deep thing. I hope y'all, no? You don't want to, Okay, let's move along. That's why you got boys walking around with tight pants on. And girls walking around with baggy-ass sweatsuits on. And it's a cold-blooded deep thing y'all got to grasp. When people get balance within themselves, meaning when a woman becomes strong, less emotional and strong, and a man becomes more feminine and weak. Now, when they come together, you're going to have a complete unbalance. Grasp. They're supposed to be that for each other. But when they're that on their own, meaning the woman has a little bit of strength and a little bit of logic in her emotions, and the man has a little bit of feminineness and weakness in his masculinity, when they come together and become one, you will see a problem in the relationship. Why? Because the man will become overly emotional and overly weak because he had already had that added to himself. The woman will become more stronger than need be, more logical because she already had that added to herself. Messed up the balance of life. And this is why you got all this weird, but grass, y'all don't want to talk about that. Let's just move along. Let's get into the new year. Because I hear a lot of people saying the new year's this day. And the new year's that day. And the new year really ain't January, it's in March. And life is revolving. Wise men know years don't end. So the new year begins whenever one decides to start it. Because the days that we call the new years are days men decided to count as the new year. And you can do that on your own. You can say whatever you want. No, it was the constellation. Grasp. Nothing's on a pinpoint. Everything's moving. So if a man tells you, oh, the new year is the day of the constellation, then if we going by the new year being according to the constellation, then the new year would never be on the exact same day ever. Grasp that. Because this all has to do with the movement of the star. And the star ain't a robot. So it's like you. It moves how it moves. And the same way a woman has her menstrual cycle around this time of the month, so is the same with anything in her life. It's around that time, but you get to work around whatever time you need to clock in, but it ain't never the same exact second. You get my point? It's kind of like around that time. So if we was celebrating a new year according to the stars, it would be a different day every year. It would be around the same time every year, but it would be a different day. And I want y'all to grasp that, because I know you got brothers that swear they extra smart, and they like to disagree with any. No, y'all don't want to talk about this kind of stuff? Okay, let's move. You know what? I could do the let's move alongs all night. So let's really just move on along to this history of North America. Now, someone asked me what was the name of North America prior to European settlement. And the name of North America, according to the natives that were here, all of them, they refer to it as Turtle Land. Now, they have it recorded in some places in today as Turtle Island, but we know America has many islands, so get real. They viewed the whole continent as Turtle Land. This is what they called it. This is the name they had for it, Turtle Land. And it's a deep thing I want y'all to grasp. You had the Anishinaabe, or the Ojibwa, I'm sorry, my tongue a little dry. The Ojibwa tribe. And they have stories of their time in North America, but they refer to it as Turtle Land. And this is written on like birch bark, what the natives would have called Wigwasabak. Wigwasabak and Wigwasabaksoon, or something like that. And that's just the plural. Birch bark scrolls, like kind of like tree bark carvings in a sense, but made in, paper scroll form. Basically how we make paper out of trees, they did too, but it still was in tree form where, it lasts longer than a piece of paper. And they had stories they told, and their references of the name that they called America was Turtle Land. Now you have to grasp, all the natives had different languages. The Seneca tribe people, they called America Hanuna. And this translates to mean turtle. So it's a deep thing, but they all had their own different language. And when you translate the different languages, they're not all going to say turtle, being as though translation leads you anywhere. But what they do is listen to the oral stories the natives told. And through the stories, they can get an understanding of what they call the continent. So translating the word may not lead you anywhere. But if you can hear the person's story and them describing their lands, then you can get a description. Oh, that word must mean turtle, and they must view their land as the Turtle Land. And it makes sense because their names were after the animals and things like this. Because everything was tied into the life, but it's a deep thing. You had the Lenape tribe, and they had oral stories that they told of how the continent's name was Turtle Land as well. They viewed the continent as a turtle. You had some European guy named Jasper Dunkerts. And sometime in the 1600s, he recorded this oral story from the Lenape people, basically breaking down how their lands is called Turtle Land and how it came into being and whatnot. And he recorded this. Europeans, they recorded all these stories, and these are the different stories that we have today and different movies and things we have today. This is where this comes from. So they record these oral stories and then they put them in the books. These books later on become movies and things like that. Like, it's just so deep, like, how they do. But you had the Lenape tribe. They viewed it as Turtle Land. You also had the Iroquois. I forgot how to pronounce it. The Iroquois or the Iroquois. And they had their story of the sky woman falling to earth and earth sinking below sea, and how they put all this dirt and mud. I forgot how it goes, but they put all the dirt and mud on the turtle's back, and this turtle blossomed to become North America. Now, over in the South, they called South America, the natives on the South, they called that Abiyala. And this meant like the mature lands, but it meant more than that. That's just what they translated to mean. But this meant like, the full harvest lands, like the land of the harvest. You know, South America is like America in its glory almost. South America is like North America in its glory almost. You know, the weather over there and just, it's a beautiful deep thing, but that's what they called it, and it's a deep thing. But that was the name of the Americas to the natives. Turtle Land. Now, I also got a question from someone. They wanted to know, how did America get that name? Was it from the guy Amerigo, the Vespucci guy? And I want you guys to all know that no one knows how America got this name. But there's many, I don't want to say theories, but there's many facts that could be the reason why. So there's many things that happen that could be the reason why, but it's not a definite. So the Amerigo thing, the Vespucci guy, I forget the name of the guy that was documenting the discovery of America by the Europeans. But when this guy was documenting it, he made a mistake and he thought Amerigo Vespucci discovered America. So he documented it as that. But that was later changed, meaning the documentation and all of that was later fixed. And people think maybe that, this is what scholars and different people think, like maybe that was how we got the name America, because of that mishap that never was fixed as far as the name goes. But if you look into the history of America, even the Mayans, they called America Inca Melech, something like that, Inca Melech. You also had another native tribe that was here around, probably in the slavery times, right in the beginnings before America was America, and they called America America, something like that. So no one truly knows where America got their name. So, you know, we can stop running around just blabbering out stuff. Just, you know, get the knowledge for self and just, knowledge is deep. Knowledge is like this. It's not a matter of knowing a whole bunch of different things. But knowledge is a matter of knowing one thing more and more until you realize that all is just one thing in its many different aspects. And if you can just grasp one thing more and more and more and more and more, all other things will begin to tie in to your understanding, as opposed to you bouncing all around trying to know this thing and know that thing, and then you just be confused. Trust me, I'm the wisest brother y'all have on the planet. No ego, I'm just telling you. The words I speak, can you not hear? No? Forget it? Forget it. Let's move along. Now, I want to explain to you guys who the Cherokee Nation was. Because this is a very deep thing, and this ties into all the nations that you see in America today, the Hispanics, the Dominicans, the Puerto Ricans, the blacks, the native tribes that are on the reserves. You know, the many different nations of people that belong to America, so to say, are been here from the slavery times. Not the new additions like the Chinese and all of that, but I want to break this down for you guys to grasp. Now, in today's times, we have the Cherokee Nation, or the Cherokee tribe, which is the natives. Now, prior to them being called the Cherokee, they were called the Aniawea, and this is one of the oldest tribes that were here. And this is what the Cherokee are, but they're the descendants, so to say. But they're one people. I don't want you to get confused. The Aniawea changed their name to the Cherokee because the language changed to English. So Aniawea is supposed to be, Cherokee is supposed to be the translation to Aniawea, but it's not. And it's a deep thing I want you guys to grasp. The Chickasaw people, they called the Aniawea the Cherokee, and this meant those that dwelt by the caves and mountainsides. Now, the Europeans had their interminglings with the Chickasaw as well. And they translated the Chickasaw's word for the Niawea into Cherokee. So Chalaki, which is the Chickasaw's word in description for the Niawea, the Europeans translated that word, Chalaki, to mean Cherokee in English. Therefore, the Niawea became the Cherokee. But Niawea does not translate into Cherokee. This is why you have a word in Cherokee that's Zalagi. And Zalagi translates to mean Cherokee. But the Niawea word Zalagi, or the Cherokee word Zalagi, has nothing to do with the Niawea. Now, you can ask a Cherokee person this. They'll tell you that, a native. He'll tell you, a Niawea doesn't translate into Cherokee, but our word that translates into Cherokee is Salaki. And this is what other tribes called us, Chalaki. So it's a deep thing I want y'all to grasp. Now, when you're dealing with the Niawea, before they were called the Cherokee, I want y'all to grasp this. You had the Niawea, and this was the native tribe here. And you had all the other native tribes, copper-colored people. Now, when the Europeans came here, they began to breed with these people. Grasp. The Europeans came here. They breeded with all these copper-colored tribes. They had offspring. The offspring were half native, half European. Grasp. Now, as Europeans begin to take over the lands, the language changed. A lot of the offspring, they spoke the new language, English. They also spoke the native tongue, but they mainly spoke the English language. And they dealt with their fathers, and they took on some of their fathers' ways. They began to call themselves what their fathers called them, which was Cherokee. And this is how you got that name, Cherokee. And these would be the native people and the Europeans, their offspring. Now you had another case as well happening at the same time, because the Europeans came with African servants. And these African servants, as time began to go on, you know, after the first offspring, which would have been half European, half native, after these offsprings and the many different generations of these offspring, you begin to get the native tribes into breeding with the European servants, which were Africans. And they had offspring together. And these offspring are what you would call blacks, Negroes, Africans, Americans, and today. That's what they would be. And these offspring were not treated right because the European had power. Now, they didn't really care for the natives, meaning they wanted to get them out the way. They had respect for them, but they truly just get out the way, we want the land. Now, the Europeans had no respect for their servants, their African servants. So, therefore, the offspring between these two kind of get pushed to the side, as you see happening right before your eyes today. So, each native tribe has two sets of offspring. Their offspring with the Europeans, which you have all the different natives that are on the reserves in today's times, and they're lighter in skin tone. You have them. These are that offspring, that set. Then you have another set of offspring with the natives that were the offspring with them interbreeding with the European servants, which would have been the African slaves. And these offsprings are those you see being oppressed, treated differently. And this is why. So the black people you see today that don't know their culture, their heritage, our heritage is the natives of the land, but we're the offspring that was from those that were not truly cared for. You got to grasp. The Europeans, they didn't really care for their offspring with the natives that much either. You had nigger blood in you, because they viewed the natives as that. Black motherfuckers. So, but you're one of us, so we'll make sure you have a little land and reservations and things like this. Now, I'm not knocking the European offspring, because these are our brothers as well. And they've been holding down the fort more than the lost black offspring, so to say. So I'm not knocking them. If anything, they've been reserving and preserving as much of the ancestors' history as we possibly can have, so that when y'all stop being lost, y'all can realize. But a lot of the natives on the land, on the reserves and things, they're just as lost. Y'all have to realize, everybody went through this, even the natives. Even the whites, everybody went through this confusion and was placed where they were, told what they were told. You have to think and understand this on your own, because you can see what I'm saying right before your eyes in today's times. You got the Dominicans and the Puerto Ricans. One people. The Dominicans are darker. They're called Negro by the Puerto Ricans, which are lighter. They look white. And this is how you got that. The native people that dwelt in those areas where DR and Puerto Rico is, they had offspring with the Spaniards. The Spanish that came. They had offspring with them first. And this is what you would have with the Puerto Rican. The Puerto Rican view themselves as the natives, meaning they don't view themselves as white people, but they're the offspring of the two, meaning they all know they have European blood in them. So grasp. Now they look at the blacks, meaning the Dominicans, different. They're treated different. And it's because the Dominicans, the dark Hispanics, they were the natives of that land, and the offsprings with the Europeans, slaves, which were Africans. So this is why they're darker like that, and their hair is kinky like that. This is how that happened. It's a deep thing I want y'all to grasp. We living in this reality right now. I know we pull for the African heritage because it's popular, but grasp. You only have African ancestry because they were brought here. You got the perspective wrong. You look at it as my ancestors was brought here, completely ignoring the black and browns that were here already. This foolishness was brought here. You were born here. So grasp. Everybody, whether they were Caucasian at that time, African servant at that time, doesn't matter. All offspring after that are native. Grasp. Because they were born here. There were more native here than any other race. So the Caucasian races were breeded into the native. The African races were breeded into the natives. Because this was their home. It was more of them. So you have to grasp. Even the white man in today's times that's here, that was born here, he has that native blood in him. Because all the offspring, whether from the European line or the African servant line, we all truly one people. The results of all that mixing and mingling of breeding. And some are more European than others, and some are not. But if somehow we can dig up the native tribes from 1490, before European settlement, they would see the lost blacks, like the black African Americans, the Dominicans, the dark-skinned Colombians, the dark-skinned Cubans, the dark-skinned Mexicans. They would see all these different dark-skinned people and say, oh my God, y'all still look the same. Y'all still look like us. Y'all lost. But man, y'all still got the look. They would see the lighter half of these races, meaning the Puerto Ricans, the lighter Cubans, the lighter Colombians, the lighter Mexicans that, look white in appearance. They would see them and say, oh my God, y'all been breeded out. Like, the skin, your melanin is all gone. They would still embrace them, of course. But it would just be like, damn, they would just be shocked. Like, damn, the natives on the reserves, y'all look white. But y'all been holding down the fort. Man, y'all got the history still a little bit, and damn, it's a blessing. And they would look at the blacks like, damn, y'all so lost, y'all an embarrassment. But god damn, y'all look like us, and y'all act like us so naturally without trying. We used to cook outdoors over open flame, dance around, smoke our peace pipe, have a dinner outdoors, basically. Do this all day. And black people, they got this thing today that they do called barbecues, where they pretty much do the same goddamn thing. So you see how we still do the same thing the natives did. If you remove all the European influence, what you left with is the natives. If you removed all the European influence that you had over yourself, all you'd have left is what you do. Black men, they do their gang thing. That's not European influence. So what you have? Them acting like natives. When the natives used to run around ganging like, making their different noises and sounds, when they getting it in, and then you see the black men in today's times, they do the same thing still. You had the different clans within the tribe. Same in today's times, the different gangs in the black communities, but it's the same people. They just been influenced and breeded to the point where they don't know what's going on anymore. It's like the Cherokee, the Aniawea. When the Europeans first came here, they got to the South Americas, and when they got deeper into the north, the tribes were a little more advanced, and you had the Aniawea. Now, I want y'all to grasp, when you live in colder climate, it's already a given that the people more advanced. So we know in South America, the weather's a little nicer, crops grow. Crops grow, life is kind of easy. But when the climate is harsh, you have to have a certain intellect to survive. So anytime you come into contact with a nation of people that live in cold climates, you better know that they way more advanced than you are. Just imagine if we came into contact with a race of men that's been living in Antarctica. Grasp. They're going to be way more advanced than we are because the conditions that they live in, they've been surviving. So you have to have a certain intellect. Now my point is this, when the Europeans came north and got deep into North America, in the New York areas and the Virginias and South Carolinas and North Carolinas, the climate changes, it gets cold. But the people in these areas were a little more advanced. You had the Aniawea tribe, which are the Cherokee today. And when the Europeans came upon them, they had on like head garbs, like turbans, not turbans, but the Europeans, like men, is almost like turbans they were wearing in different head garbs. They wore a lot of jewelry, gold teeth, different things like this. And this was the Aniawea people. And if you can just grasp the similarities, we wear a lot of head garbs in today's times. Do-rags, scullies, different hats. Our people wear all types of head garbs. Most races, they just got their thing they wear. We wear all types of different head garbs. And this is the description of those in the deep north, the Aniawea. They had different head garbs they were wearing and jewelry, and they were a little more advanced. They were living in clay, mud, brick homes. They had electricity, things like this. This is where the European got the fossil fuel idea from, with the dead plants and that whole fossil fume coal thing. But this is where they got that from. The natives that were in the north, they were already doing this. Because, they live in cold climate. Fire ain't enough. You got to get your brain working. So they were a little more advanced. And you can see the correlations in the people today. Now, the Aniawea people, this would be the Cherokee, according to their oral history, they came from the rising sun. And this basically means they came from the far east, you know, the East Asia part of the earth. And it's deep because if you know your history somewhat of North America, you know during the Arctic age, or the Ice Age, so to say, around 16,000 to 12,000 BC, around that time, 16,000, 12,000 BC-ish, you had a lithic group, a lithic people, that came from Eurasia and Far East on landmass sheets of ice, meaning damn near island-sized sheets of frozen ice. And they floated from the Far East on these frozen sheets of ice all the way to North America. And these people, after thousands of years of breeding, became the many different tribes that we had on North America, like the Olmecs, the Toltecs, the Mayans, the Aztecs, all the way up into European settlement times, where you had all those different tribes. So these lithic people that came from Far East are supposedly the people that populated, over thousands and thousands of years, populated the North American lands. So it's a deep thing I want y'all to grasp. I heard a person say, the natives got Asian ancestry. How can we be descendants of them? Well, if you know, back in those times when the lithic people came here, East Asians was melanated, dark. So black, dark people migrated here on chunks of ice, island-sized sheets of ice. And these people did not just sail here, but you know, you had many different sheets of ice floating wherever it floated. So grass, it's a deep thing. You on the ice, it's floating, there's nothing you can do, but you just go where the ice takes you. The landmass sheet of ice is big enough where they can build like igloos on it and still somewhat live. You fish off the edge and things like this and just float. Some of these sheets of ice floated to Africa in many different places. And these people spread out all about the earth. And North America was one of those places. So we just have to grasp how this goes. It's just like I told y'all, the Hebrews, they basically was the North Americans. The same as the North American people. The blacks you see today, same people. Them same people that floated out on land-sized sheets of ice, they floated to Africa as well. And they became the Hebrews, or immigrants. If you are familiar with me, then you know I said Hebrew meant immigrant in them times. So they became the Hebrews of that land. And fortunately for those that got to North America, wasn't nothing here but animals. So it's a deep thing. And you know, they had the continent to themselves for the most part, and they populated it. And over thousands of years, you get all the different tribes you had. Olmecs, the Toltecs, and all these different tribes. It's a deep thing, but it's truly a simple thing if you can grasp everything I'm saying. We make the history confusing, and this is because people are biased, and they want to be this, or they want to be that, as opposed to just letting the information just flow freely. And whatever you are, you are. When you do that, then you truly grasp, oh shit, all the black people in today's times are truly the descendants of the natives. They the ones that got the most native blood, and they just being pushed aside because they the natives that have the African slave blood in them. So it's a deep thing y'all got to grasp. Now, I want to discuss this also because I was asked another question. Let me check my pad to see what that question was. Someone asked me, what is the Native American Shawnee clan? Who was that? Now, I want y'all to grasp. You got the Chickasaw people. They don't like when you use Native American. They rather people. American is an insult to them, to say America. So if you ever come across a native or someone that's into their native culture, you never use that word. You say native people or family or, things like this. But the Shawnee clan was a clan that was in the Chickasaw tribe. Now grasp, you got the tribe, and then you had the clans within the tribe. But this is kind of like European perspective. So you can look at the word tribe, like when you hear Chickasaw tribe. Just look at it as Chickasaw family, and the clans would be the people. So you had the Chickasaw family and their 15 peoples. This would be the Chickasaw tribe and their 15 clans. Now, one of their clans were the Shawnee clan. You had the Nita clan. You had the Issa clan. You had the Chalala clan. Now, what all these words meant were animal names. So, Shawnee was raccoon. That was their word for raccoon. And whoever was a Shawnee was basically to say they were the raccoon people, because the natives viewed the animals as people, just a different race or a different kind of people, but they were people. They had intellect. They dealt with these people, which were the animals, but they viewed it this way. That's why they had names like Running Bull and things like this. But Shawnee was their word for raccoon. So to say, this person was a Chickasaw tribe raccoon clan member. Nita was bear. Nita, however, this was bear. You had those in the bear clan in the Chickasaw. Chalala, this the blackbird. You had those in the blackbird clan. So each word was translated into basically a English type of word, so to say. So Shawnee became raccoon or coon, if you get my point. Nita became bear. So they began to refer to themselves as this instead of Shawnee and things like this. Shawnee and Nita. They began to use the English word. Now, if you move ahead in the time into today times, you got the Shawnee people in Peru. And they're the descendants of the Chickasaw people. It's a deep thing. And they still hold the name the Shawnee people. And they speak Spanish, I believe. They don't speak the Chickasaw tongue. And a lot of the history and things is lost, but they reserve what they can. They still got the name Shawnee. But it's deep because they don't view themselves as raccoon in any way. Just Shawnee. If you ask them, they'll probably tell you Shawnee is the name of the ancestors, but it will be no reference to raccoon. And this is my point. It's a deep thing. You got brothers in today times calling one another coon, 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 not realizing what they're saying. You call a brother a coon, it's the same thing as calling a brother a Shawnee. Now, we wouldn't walk around calling each other Shawnees, because that would be kind of disrespectful. We do recognize there are Shawnee people living amongst us now, and this is their nationality. But we call each other coon, not realizing the correlation. The native original Shawnee was the coon people. And the Nita people, that was the bear people. And these was the people in the Chickasaw tribe. And you had the Cherokee tribe, and they had their 7 main clans. They had more than 7 clans, but they had their 7 main. And the Chickasaw had their 15 main. And it's a deep thing y'all got to grasp. Cherokee had like wolf, snake, mink, I believe. No, Chickasaw had mink. This meant leader. But you know what a mink is. A mink is an animal. We wear the mink coats. But this is a little animal, like a chinchilla almost. So you had the mink. You had so many. It's so deep. We so lost from that whole history. But I'm still tied in with it. Because like I said, my grandmother, her mother's full-blood Cherokee. Well, my grandmother's full-blood Cherokee and half European. So her mother was full-blood Cherokee, Indian, or native. And her father was a European. Therefore, my grandmother, who is still alive today, her mother was basically 3/4 native. And 1/3 black. No, I'm sorry. She was basically, 3/4 Native American and 1/4 European. Because her mother was European and white, and her father was native. My grandmother, her mother is native, and her father was black, African descent. And then you got us. So my grandmother's mother looks like the natives on the reserve. So she would be like them. You know, she got the white complexion kind of in. She kind of like them. But her children, as you can see, wear coppered. From her being with a black man or an African. So it's deep. But in them times, he would have just been referred to as a Negro or African American. She was referred to as a native. So it's just deep. But I just wanted to give y'all that little history. We being cheated out of so much. Make sure I haven't missed anything of any of the questions. But yeah, we being cheated out of so much. People have to just get a little more in tune with the history and just stop arguing amongst one another so much. And it doesn't matter. If you like the African ancestry and history, you pull for that. But just know there's two sides. And you're here. So you have to truly grasp and begin to understand. And for those of you that feel this video and grasp what I'm saying, pull for your native culture and history. Now, I'm not saying to begin to dress and try to be like the natives. Because we have a lot of the brothers pulling for the African culture, and they try to be like the Africans and be like the ancestors and dress like them. And I'm not saying do that. See, you don't have to try to be anything. If you are of African ancestry, just your being is that. Same with natives. I'm from native descent. I'm a native descent. Cherokee native descent. But however I am is how I am. And that represents them because we don't need to be the past, but just understand the past and who you come from and you be you. So it's a deep thing y'all have to grasp. I am what a native of today look like. I don't need to try to look like a native of the past. You don't have to try to look like an African to be African ancestry. If that's what you are, whatever you do and whatever you are is a part of them people. So we have to just be the natives of today. Keeping the ancestry of the past and correlating it with today. We already do the same things they did, but the understanding of that and just the understanding of their language and the way they spoke and just different things. Like, I'll give you one. You could build on this. You got O.C. Sue, O.C. Ku, and O.C.O. Now, in today times when we see one another, we be like, oh, what's good, man? How you feeling? And the brother will say, I'm good. And this is O.C. Sue. Basically asking the question, what's good, man? How you feeling? And O.C. Ku is the answer. I'm good. OCO would be like the plural of OC cool, meaning we all good, the family straight, we good. So it's a deep thing. OC Sue, OSITSU, OC cool, OSIQUU, and OCO, OSIYO. Some people have it misconstrued as OCO means hello or hi, but it doesn't. It's a part of a greeting, but it's not the greeting. It's the response to the greeting, which would be OC Sue. So it's a deep thing, and OCO is the plural response, meaning we as opposed to I. So OC cool would just be like the response and an individual response. So it's a deep thing, but you just pull for your culture some more. Like I said, I do one-on-one, so if anyone wants a one-on-one, I be hoping people want one-on-ones that actually live in my city, because I be wanting to do in-person things. I really not with this online and on the phone stuff. I'm old school. It got to be in person. You get what you need that way, better. But then we could do some of the sit down and do the peace ritual. I get you one of these praying rugs, and we could sit out on the land or something, indoors if it's freezing, and I do home visits too if you're not crazy. I bring the peace rug over and we sit, bring your spiritual direction down to central for the moment, and then just build on some deep, deep knowledge. Give you that real one-on-one, like how people got learned in the past over the fire in the cave. Full attention. And go in on that sacred knowledge, So it's a deep thing I want y'all to grasp, but it's Black History Month from now to about December-ish. Basically, the whole year is going to be Black History Month on my channel. And I'm going to be busting y'all in the head with native knowledge all year round. Got the other teachers out there, they bust y'all in the head with the African knowledge all year round. So I'll use my channel to balance that out so you can get an abundance of the culture. Truly realizing that we're not African descendants, but you can be whatever you want because everybody in the life is truly of one. So it's a deep thing, but we have this confusion called nationality that men like to use as a divide. So if you want to pull for that, you can. It doesn't bother me. I don't really care. I just like people to, have an opportunity to know truth. Then if you want to throw truth aside, that's on you. But at least give a person a chance to hear it. So this is fair. This is balanced. But it's the wise servant here, Mr. Solace. For some percent. Peace and wisdom.